Hi, and welcome to the Week 15 edition of The Grid. Yes, we're still here. We still have a bunch of teams left in the playoffs, which is a great thing. And I'm Mike Forman, and joined as always by Rey Castillo. We're going to talk about it. We have 6 quarterfinal games this week and 1 TAPS state final. And the first thing I wanted to mention is this week is kind of a deja vu all over again week. It's really rematch week. We have out of our 6 quarterfinal games, 4 of them are actually district rematches, and the other 2 are playoff rematches. So, these teams are pretty familiar with each other. I guess first, Ray, let's go back to last week. Anything in particular stand out to you from the regional playoff games?
Yeah, I covered the Edna game against Rice Consolidated in El Campo, and Edna just showed once again that they're a team to be reckoned with. And Kenny Haynes, in the middle of all that, their senior running back, he had 3 touchdowns, and he sent the Cowboys to the quarterfinals. That's kind of been their goal. Jerry Long, head coach, was talking about them reaching that point, and they want more. And they're going to have a chance Saturday against Yoakum. I know we'll get into that, but just to see the way they played, and defensively as well with the shutout, they look to be ready.
Yeah, and of course I saw Yoakum Saturday night against Goliad. Boy, Coach Bo Robinson has done a great job with that team. They have really come on as late. You can see the confidence growing with that team, and they really found what works with those guys, and they're doing it. And then the other game I have to mention from last week was, of course, Refugio Shiner. Just a very back and forth, intense kind of game that really wasn't expected like that. I mean, you had 2 teams that playing very good defense, but yet they put up like 97 points. I think it was close to 900 yards of offense, but the thing that stood out from that game, there's no doubt, is Refugio quarterback Austin Ochoa. I mean, he rushed for over 300 yards and 6 touchdowns, and he threw for over 200 yards and a touchdown, and he did not throw an incomplete pass. Just an incredible performance offensively, and then you consider he's playing linebacker on defense. Just amazing what he did in that game. But let's move on, because the present is what matters right now, as we all know. And we'll start right at the top with Class 5A Division II. Calhoun Sand Crabs get a look at a familiar opponent, the Cal Allen Wildcats, which you know very well because you've seen them when they were playing East and West. And so the Wildcats beat Calhoun in district, but it's very interesting. It was 3 points.
Yeah.
And Calhoun did not have quarterback Connor Kessler, who was injured for that game. So that could be a big difference.
Yeah, that definitely will be the difference, having Connor back for the Sand Crabs. You look at that game, like you said, 3-point loss, 23-20. And, with him in the mix, what he's been able to do all season, the numbers he's putting up, and just the fact that, Coach Whitaker has said time and time again that just having him on the field, playing, his presence, it's just all the difference for them, because it just motivates everybody when they see him. And, a game that close without him, the Sand Crabs are in a good spot to do some damage here and, keep this season alive.
Yeah, I was talking to Coach Whitaker, and what he actually did in that game, they went to the I formation. And he said that after the game, the Cal Allen defensive coordinator came over and talked to him and said, I haven't seen you do this since when you were at Kingsville.
Oh.
So he kind of went back to his old days, but that he was adjusting to what he felt like would work, and they almost pulled it off. But they'll be back in their basic option offense this week. They're playing in the Dome. It should be a really competitive game. And moving on, also in San Antonio, we hope Friday night is Cuero and Navarro, another district rematch. The Gobblers, did you cover that game? I believe you did. It was 43-7. The Gobblers handled them pretty well. The factors here could be the rain, which there's a big chance of rain Friday. I know they're keeping the game on Friday night at Comalander Stadium. What was your impressions of the first meeting?
Oh, just totally this Cuero team is locked in. That was the one thing that stood out. Just seeing them, that was the game where I got to see them, healthy, and that was the difference. And Navarro couldn't get going at all. I mean, their one touchdown, they did score, but it was against a Cuero second string. And, just the fact that they're healthy, that's the main thing. And Coach Reeve talked about it is, they know they can do something special this year. And, I look for the same result. You never know. Obviously, it's the playoffs. Anything can happen. But Cuero sure looked good. And Navarro just couldn't really do much offensively. I believe they held him to under 100 yards rushing in the first half. And that says a lot for a good team like that.
Well, yeah, that's true. And I noticed that when I was out there Monday for practice. This team is very locked in. Now, these seniors understand what's at stake. This is their last shot. So, obviously the weather can be a factor. And that's something that, they're going to have to deal with. But that's something you can't control.
Right.
So we'll move on from there to Class 3A Division I. And we talked about this a little bit, Edna and Yoakum. Another rematch from district. This one, Yoakum won. I covered that game. Yoakum came back with a fourth quarter drive and won 21-17. But another, real close, outstanding game. So it's another one of those games where basically I think the team that plays better is going to win, that executes what they want to do. Of course, we know about Edna. They're going to run the slot tee. They're going to come at you. They want a physical game. It took Yoakum a while in that first game to kind of adjust to that physicality, but Yoakum finally did. The other factor I felt like in that game was I think Edna in the fourth quarter got a little bit fatigued. And that's something that I know Edna doesn't want to get in that situation. So really, what's your thoughts about this game?
I think it'll be a good matchup. You look at the one thing that Coach Jerry Long at Edna told me after the game was if they do play Yoke at the time, we didn't know who they were going to play. And he said, it's a chance to, get another crack at them. And you talked about the fatigue, and I know that's something that they've been working on. Kenny Haynes was telling me that, conditioning has played a major role, for them this season. And he said it's only going to get better. Practices are getting harder, so that we're adjusting to that. So, if they can capitalize on that and play the way they've been playing, and the defense can keep doing what they're doing, they could have a really good game outcome for them.
Yeah, and we have yet another district rematch in Class 3A Division II with East Bernard and Tidehaven. And this game was actually moved to Thursday because of the weather. They're still in Freedom Field out near Alvin there. I'll say this for Tidehaven. Coach Lucio David Lucio has done a heck of a job with that team. They struggled at the beginning of the year. They really had a hard time finding themselves. But Coach Lucio was able to figure out what works. And they've been playing better defense, and they're starting offensively to get some things going that work. And, of course, it's going to be tough because East Bernard, as we all know, is a perennial playoff contender. There's another slot T team. In fact, that's Jerry Long's old team. And the coach, Wade Bossy, that took over for him was one of his assistants. So they run the slot T. And, in fact, East Bernard's only loss this season was to Edna. And that was a very close game earlier in the season. So, we'll keep an eye on this game as well to see what develops from then. And then moving on to 2A Division I, it seems like this is a broken record, but every year it's Refugio Mason. It's like Coach Jason Herring said, it seemed like if we want to go to state, at some point we got to go through Shiner and Mason. And Mason is right now the number one team in the state, undefeated. I think Refugio, to be honest, has played a tougher schedule. Obviously with Martin, Goliad, and Shiner, you've seen some really good teams, but this Mason team is very good. And Refugio is going to have to play well. If it plays like it did last week, though, Refugio is going to be very difficult to beat, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned this earlier, Mike. Ever since that game against Goliad, when they changed offenses, it's really been the difference for them. And like you said, the schedule, a lot different. That win over Shiner, though, that gives you so much momentum right there.
Yeah, the main thing you have to do is any coach will tell you this, it's hard to play two really good games back to back. It's hard. And that's the main thing, to regain that focus. And although I think with the fact that you're playing in the Alamo Dome, which will be 3:30 on Friday, and you're playing Mason, I wouldn't think that Rafiro would have much trouble getting focused. And Class A Division II, and this could be a really exciting game. We have Fall City and Burton, another playoff rematch. Both of these teams are so explosive. I was looking at this last night, and I think I noticed Fall City has scored 40 points or more, I think, in 9 games, and I think Burton has done it in 8.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of talent on that field. And, we've talked about Fall City with Keyshawn Johnson and Brady Lissy and Corey Zook. But Burton has a player by the name of D. Winters, who is just an outstanding all-around athlete that is committed to TCU. And Burton's gotten the better of Fall City the last 2 years, so it's a big one. I know when I spoke to Fall City's coach, Britt Hart, he was really keyed up for this game. They knew, both these teams knew that eventually they'd probably end up meeting. And the reward for this is if you win this game in the semifinals, you're going to catch either Mart or Munster. So it's going to keep getting tougher from here on out.
Oh, yeah.
And finally, up in, near Waco, Hewitt Midway, we have the St. Paul Cardinals back in the state final.
Yeah.
I mean, who'd have thunk it, early in the year. They struggled, and they had some injuries, and then they came out and they lost in district to Sacred Heart. But, it just seems like St. Paul always hangs in there. And Coach Walksmith has done another great job with that team. And when they turn around in the semifinal and beat Sacred Heart.
Yeah.
So they're going back where they'll play, to tell you the truth, Fort Worth Country Day, which I honestly don't know really much about. But what's your thoughts on this game?
I think St. Paul, they, like you said, coming in, with the tough start, but they're showing that they can finish strong, and they against Sacred Heart, scoring those 21 answered points. So again, coming back and showing that that fight, they just don't give up. And St. Paul is going to want to carry that into the state final game. And the thing is, too, is that you look at Jake Walksmith, he's been there before, and, that plays a lot, too, when you have a coach like that, in your corner. And Joseph Nadal, I mean, just continues to run the ball well. And he wants, if they're going to, want to win this championship, they're going to want to hope he continues to do that.
Yeah, and of course, they'll have to play good defense again.
Yeah.
I mean, they did limit Sacred Heart in the second half, so that was a big key for them. And, they'll be going for another state title. And of course, the other thing here is we're getting to the point now. Next week is the semifinals, and then the next week is the championship game. So if these teams can see, it's no longer real far out there. It's right there. I mean, the chance to go to Arlington, play in AT&T Stadium for a state championship is within, sight. So this game's, that's what all these teams that are left are aiming for, is that opportunity. And we'll keep you updated on all these games on Twitter. And of course, we'll let you know what's happening. You can check out avosports.com and follow us. And, we're going to keep on going. We're hoping we'll keep on going right all the way to Arlington, as we have in the last couple of years. And we have some really good contenders, I think. So we'll hopefully for sure be back. I guess I can say for sure next week we'll be back with another edition of The Grid.